That's true.
Absolutely.
Ready.
Talk Business Startup. Actually, I'm going to redo that because today we are changing the name of the podcast. We are naming it Finding Your Venture. So for anybody who has been with us and joining previously, thank you all for coming. We still have the G3 Club, but we're kind of doing a little bit of a rebrand. So today we are starting the Finding Your Venture Clubhouse room. So thank you guys for joining. This show has been designed to provide practical advice for entrepreneurs who are in the midst of startup. My name is Jasmine, and I will be moderating the room for today. I would like to first thank you all for being here and introduce to you our hosts, Brian Hayden and Mike McFall. Brian is the co-founder and managing partner of Heat Spring. He is a course and podcast creator of Redesigning the End and is the entrepreneur in residence at the University of Michigan. Mike McFall went from barista to the co-founder and co-CEO of Baby Coffee with over 290 locations and growing. He is the author of Grind, a no bullshit approach to take your business from concept to cash flow. And he is also an avid entrepreneur who is paving the way for future leaders. And together, Mike and Brian teach a class at the University of Michigan called Finding Your Venture, hence why we're all here today. Its focus is on entrepreneurialism as a method of solving problems and bringing value to people. It also walks the student through the stages of startup to successful launch. So be prepared to bring your real advice and real problems as Mike and Brian are going to bring their best advice today. And again, thank you guys all for being here. Before we get started, I want to remind you that this room is being recorded. So if you want to refer back to it at any point in time, you can go to the Finding Your Venture podcast, or you can also find it here on Clubhouse or Mike's YouTube. So feel free to engage elsewhere. And if you would like to follow everybody and see what we have going on in other areas, go ahead and click that link tree at the top of the room. So again, we're going to get started and jump right in. Gentlemen, I hand the mic off to you so you can introduce today's guest.
Very good. Thanks, Jasmine.
Yeah.
Hi, Zenobia.
Hello.
This is cool. Hey, Brian, I probably should have checked with you on the rebrand first.
I love it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a nice alignment. You know, it's the class we teach. So we may as well just like lean into it. I like it.
Okay. All right. Well, it is your brand, and so we can reverse course if we need to, but we can talk more later.
Absolutely.
So anyway, let's get into Zenobia's story here. I'm curious and interested, and I can't wait to hear more. So Zenobia, if you don't mind, can you give us your founder story, the story of how you got into it, why you got into it, why it's meaningful for you, why you're passionate about it, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. So my business is called Cellar Preserves. We make artisan preserves and cocktail fruit. So that's like jam, fruit spreads, things of that nature. And everything is made in small batches. We use about half the sugar compared to most other companies. And we use all Michigan fruit because I believe Michigan has the best fruit in the world. And I think more people should know that. So that's kind of the short overview of what my business is. But I started, well, my journey with making jam is after I graduated from college, I had an internship in the nonprofit sector because that's what I was imagining I was going to do with my life. And I didn't make a lot of money and I had a lot of time on my hands during the internship. And so I just kind of needed a low cost hobby to keep myself occupied. And so I thought, hey, I don't know, maybe I can go to the farmer's market and get a bunch of fruit and put it in jars and see what that's like. I was really into books by Michael Pollan and Barbara Kingsolver, and I was pretty into the idea of eating locally as much as possible. So that kind of tracked with some things I was interested at the time. But anyway, I bought a canning pot on Amazon, I think, and just kind of
What year would that have been? Okay. Okay. That's cool. That's awesome. So I'm going to ask you a bit of a oddball question. If we could snap our fingers and be out 10 years and you could be doing 50 million in revenue with 200 employees, would you say yes to that question? Yeah, where do you lean though? Where do you lean? Give me a direction. I know you don't have it all sort of figured out, but and that's so you can be proud of the product. I mean, is that pretty much yeah.
Hey, congratulations, Zenobia, on growing a business and having it be so that you can do it full time and have a product you're proud of. I think it's really cool. I'm excited to taste some of the products you have. I'd be curious to know a little bit more about how the business works. Like, who are your customers, and to what do you attribute the growth you've seen? Like, why are you growing?
do sell at quite a few.
Well, I was just curious, like, to what do you attribute your your growth? Yeah.
I think a lot of it has just been persistence, and just really working hard, like going, like literally prospecting, just like cold emailing people. And the other thing, I think, I wouldn't say that my business had major success because of the pandemic, but I really don't think it hurt us. During that, a lot of retailers, small businesses went online for the first time to start sourcing products, and we were already there on the platforms that you buy products for your store on, and so that gave us a huge advantage. So we saw our online wholesale sales just kind of go through the roof during COVID, and then also our best seller during COVID became our cocktail cherries, which I had always had, but they were just kind of a middling product, and I guess when everyone was home drinking. That really changed. So, and really we don't have a lot of competition in that sphere, which is pretty cool. So, yeah.
What do you think would be is which channel would you sell into to grow 5 times? This strikes me as just such a big market. There's so many retailers, there's so many gift companies. It's almost overwhelming the number of places you could go. So part one of the question is, where could you sell 5 times, the revenue? And then if you got that contract, what would then become the problem?
Yeah. So one of the big things we're working on this year is getting into some larger format grocery stores, I don't know, like a Kroger or the Meijer. We're in the Meijer market format stores, but some Meijer super centers or something like that, like a not a high-end grocery store, but more just an everyday grocery store. I believe one order from a place like that could potentially be, what we make in several months of revenue. So the problem that would, and so this is the thing, we're working on it, and it's these kind of deals take a long time. But yeah, once we get that order, the problem will be, okay, now we have to have all this product. We need capital, because they're not going to obviously pay us up front. So you need, if they place, I don't know, a $50,000 order, we need to buy all the ingredients up front and pay for all the labor up front. We probably would need to expand our warehouse storage space. All of these logistical things, which I believe we can do, but it will be, when that happens, there will be some scrambling, I think.
Mm-hmm.
On the same line of question that Brian, I think, is in, who is if you could sign up another 20 customers, like one of your customers today, who would that be?
So believe it or not, our number one customer is a cheese shop, and they literally sell more than our distributors do. And they're delightful to work with. And they always pay on time. So yeah, if I could have 20 more like that, that'd be amazing and huge for my business.
And how did you find them?
Well, they're actually in the same building that the shared kitchen I was in Grand Rapids, and so I just walked down there one day, and I was
I know that cheese shop.
Why do they sell so many? Why do they sell so many? Why is it so good?
Yeah, I think one reason is people who shop there expect to pay a lot. It's a gourmet shop, and they expect to pay a lot of money. But our jam retails between $12 and $14. Well, actually $12 and $16 a jar. And so it can be harder on like a grocery store shelf when you're competing with literally jam that's like $2. So I think people already are in the mindset of spending more there, that it's gourmet. And then I think the secret, which is we do well at every place that does this, they serve our jam on cheese boards to people, and then they have the jars for sale. So they both buy in bulk and in jars from us, and then people are sampling it before they buy it.
Yeah, and I sit here and I think to myself, if I owned a cheese shop, I'd want your product.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if I own that shop or a similar shop in Petoskey or in Ann Arbor or wherever, I would want your product.
How many more of those shops are there in America?
I don't know the number. We are in quite a few other cheese shops, although none of them have nearly the number of sales that this place does for us. I think partly it's like this place just knows us and they
promote it.
You know, it's easy for them to, like, you know, we hand deliver to them. We don't have to ship to them. There's some advantages for them as well, but yeah, we definitely don't have the same sales at other cheese shops where that source our product.
Do other cheese shops serve your product with cheese boards and so on? Is that happening other places?
I think yes, to some degree, but not as much. One problem I would say is that if you're local and we can deliver to you, we can very easily get you bulk containers of jam. But it's pretty hard to ship those otherwise, because I mean, either you do like big quart jars, which are still fragile, extremely heavy, and pretty expensive, or what we give to most people are like gallons or half gallons that need to be refrigerated, which don't weigh as much and aren't as fragile, but also if you're going to ship them, that's kind of a nightmare shipping. It just makes it really cost prohibitive if you're like in California or something and you want to serve that. So I always recommend that people just buy jars and open them up, which some places do, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'd be curious to know how many of those places there are. Like replicating the cheese shop success feels to me like a different challenge than trying to get Kroger to, you know, push it against Smucker's, you know?
Yeah.
Are there shows? Are there like the fancy food show? Do you go to? I know that's a thing.
Yep. Yeah.
You go to all these shows?
We don't. We just dipped our toe in the trade show world this past January. We actually went to a gift show. We tend to do really well at gift related things because we have like no other competition, because no one else likes to go to those who's in the food world. So we did pretty well. We are considering going to a food show probably next year. And then the other thing I want to do, but this keeps getting canceled because of COVID, is they have these like, I couldn't sell there, but they have what are called like cheesemonger invitationals, which is basically like competitions for cheesemongers. And they represent like all the top cheese shops in America. And what I want to do someday, maybe whenever it comes back and doesn't get canceled again, I want to like get the list of who's all going to be there and like send them out free jam and be like, here, try this on your cheese board. Because they work at all the big cheese shops. So that would be really cool. And it's an idea I've had, but
the other thing is to get your hands on that list and then schedule events where you can go and serve jam, right? Like be there personally and you know, basically make it an event that the owner of the cheese shop can't say no to, and then you're just building that relationship with them, right? So by going in and doing an event, you provide the jam for free. You have the labor there to do it. Maybe you do it yourself, and then you're just building a relationship with the owner, and then you put a program in place in front of them in terms of how to work with you to bring in more revenue into their business because they got your product, right? But that guerrilla component to the sales and marketing, especially in the gourmet segment, I think is critical, right? That people are we used to play a little bit more in the sort of specialty gourmet space. We don't really anymore. We've kind of gone a little more mass market, even though the product hasn't changed at all. Our brand positioning has, right? And so and I just remember a lot of it for me was about making it so that whoever was buying the product, so the owner of the cheese shop, basically couldn't say no to me. Right, like you put it in front of them in a way that they have to accept it, because it's almost like you're doing them a favor, if that makes sense. But and as you build those relationships are going to move you into different marketplaces too, or into different customer bases as well, right? I think. So I would try that, right? I mean, there's got to be other. And yeah, the distribution thing that's just tough, right? Because they're not going to want to be opening 12-ounce jars of jam, right? And putting it on crackers.
That's actually, yeah.
Right. I want to know more about the gift shows. I heard you say we go to these gift shows and we do great because other food brands don't think to go there. What does it mean? Like, what type of investment do you make to go to these things? And then, like, what's the return in terms of like sales and customers?
But we have gone so far in kind of their incubator programs. So you can get a really small space and it's already furnished. And it's pretty inexpensive compared. I mean, so I don't know, we spent probably this one we did in New York in January. I would say like everything involved, including like flights, and, like everything. We probably spent $4,000, which is extremely, I'm sure you know, of trade shows, it's like a bargain. Because most foods there are upwards, like over $10,000 that people spend. So, and I feel like there's pros and cons to doing it that way. Like the one con is like you totally like look new and green, and I think some people will pass you over for that. Just think, oh, this company is like way too small to work with. But I think the flip side of that is there are companies that are like, oh, like they like it. They're like, it's a new product. Like I want this to be like the first for my product. So I mean, I don't know. I would say it was the trade show. It was more about building, like meeting people and making connections and building relationships that have eventually led to sales, as opposed to like just getting a bunch of sales right there, which was not necessarily what I was expecting. So it was hard to exactly say the ROI, because it was like, well, I don't know. I don't even think we broke even with like the sales we made at the show, but like now I'm onboarding to be on like Saks Fifth Avenue website. And so it's like, I don't know what that's going to look like. There's several other things like that are because of that show. And so it's still like yet to be seen.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, we do in our class, like I do this like 20-minute explanation of something called a media ratio. So it's like the revenue that you get from some kind of marketing effort divided by the spend. And so it's just a way of like rank ordering how to spend your time in marketing dollars. And, God, when I hear you say like, oh yeah, nobody else goes to these things and we stand out, it's like, green lights are flashing in my brain. Like these are places to spend time instead of like, I guess like I keep hearing you say like there's all these great sales opportunities, things you can be doing that would have a positive ROI, and then versus like trying to get on the shelves at Kroger or Meijer. God, like I'd love to explore all these little sort of back channels, of like cheese shops and shows and gift baskets, and it just seems like you could grow so much in those areas and profitably, and it would be fun. Like I just like. It's like this flywheel of cool stuff versus like going out and trying to slay the giant, just some thoughts, early thoughts.
Yeah, I fully agree. And my idea is really like both. Like I am very much like not ignoring all these other little things with like, I got to get into Kroger. Like we have working with a food broker, and like, she's honestly doing that work for us. And, you know, if we get in, that's great and good for us. But yeah, really our in-house focus are those, exactly. That's really how I've run the business so far. I mean, yeah, I think it's a testament to the fact that my business has been around for over 5 years, and we're not really in any huge stores.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mike,
that's
you're on
right.
mute.
Oh, I think, yeah, that all sounds right to me. In fact, the grocery store channel scares me to some degree. Only because you could ramp up and you could meet some $50,000 or $100,000 order, and then, that order could also disappear. Right. And then, but that's the risk we all take, I guess. I think, for me, I've always been an advocate of I referred to it earlier as sort of the guerrilla campaign, and I heard you say, send out an email. What would you say? Send out a cold email. I've never heard that before, but so instead of a cold call, you're sending a cold email. And I would, and you may, but I would advocate making it, way more personal of a touch than an email. And so an email is good. Shipping a sample's better. Making a phone call is even better. Dropping a card off personally is even better, right? Like I know, like I was in the gift business, so I was a gift salesman in Texas for my first couple of years out of college, and I didn't even know that I was doing well, right? And then I went to our national sales convention and realized that my territory was the fastest growing territory out of about 120 territories in the country, and I didn't even know I was doing anything spectacular. But what I was doing was I was visiting like 20 to 25 retailers a day, right? And I guess the question I have for you is, are you necessary in the production process?
I'm actually pretty much extricated from it right now. I help when they need it, but I have a production manager. She has assistants, and so no, I'm not, and I'm really not involved in it day to day anymore.
That's great. Okay, so what I would advocate is sort of good old fashioned. Do they call it good old fashioned shoe leather? Does that ring true for anybody on the call? No. Okay. Well, anyway, so, because this is what I used to do. I used to visit retailers, right? And I had about 450 retailers in my territory they were accounts, and I would visit 25 a day, and most of those would be stopping in, leaving a physical business card with a handwritten note on the back, and that's it. Because the retailers are busy; they're in other things, and you don't really. But what happens is after many months of this and stopping in their store 2 or 3 times over a 6-month period, eventually they almost like feel guilty, right? And then they do want to spend time with you and hear your story and so on. And so I guess my question is, how much of that kind of work are you doing?
Well, I feel like pretty saturated in like anywhere that I can feasibly to it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Grand Rapids, we're literally in like all the stores that you us to be in. Chicago kind of do, and we have a really awesome district that like sells hard for us there. So I'm not doing a ton now. Because it feels like places where I would need to do that are kind of far. So I don't know what advice, we're not, like, we don't sell a ton and they're close, but I don't know if I just like drive to Columbus and like,
that's kind of what I'm thinking, right? So, I mean, a $4,000 trade show, or spending $4,000, which you're right, $4,000 is pretty light. I don't know. Somebody, Brian, like, shoot lasers at me here if you think I'm crazy, but like, $4,000, that's a lot of plane tickets to Columbus and back and rental cars, and then you've got Cincinnati, and then you've got, and going and flying in and spending 3 days or 4 days in Columbus and visiting 100 retailers in Columbus and then flying home, and doing that once a month. That's not a big expense. You're talking about, maybe $2,000 to take a trip like that. Right. So, I think that's the sort of marketing that might work with the kind of retailer we're talking about here. These are real high-end retailers, and so that's my thinking. And, I'm thinking about the guys that did, what's it called? Line Leap.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what they did, is they drove around the country and visited bars,
Mm-hmm.
Line Leap, and talked to the owners and kind of swayed the owner to, and you could set up like tastings,
You guys, I love pitching. I think it's like one of the most fun things to do. And lately, the thing that I see working is just if you tell the right story. An example give one example. You don't even have to pitch. Like, people hate that shit, but if you tell the right story, they just make all the connections in their own brain. And I feel like this cheese shop.
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, I just wanted to tell you about our experiences with the cheese shop. They do these things, and here are the numbers, and they're making this much a year. And, they report that basically you just lean into that freaking perfect story, and you pretend like you just plucked it out of thin air, even though it's like literally the best story that you've had to tell. And then you're like, well, you guys remind me a lot of this company. And God, when you get that story right, you can just feel that hook buried so deep. And you're like, if you want to talk to them, if they could be like a case study, or a reference almost, and be like, I can even put you in touch and they can tell you what they do. I just feel like you'd hit at such a high rate. And then also,
I'm sure the owners of this cheese shop in Grand Rapids would allow you to do like a video interview with them. And then it's like, you could, and it doesn't have to be high end, right? It could just be like a casual sort of interview. And then when you're meeting with the cheese shop in Cincinnati, it's like, I think I'm going to send you a clip of this thing I've got. Because I did you have to make up a whole story as to why you have this clip, which, you figure that out. But I really like this, that to me, you could add 25, 30 accounts in Columbus over 6 months, and then you can add 20. Or if you just built that out. I know that work sucks. Like, being on the road is brutal, and I never enjoyed it. I loved selling, and I loved adding accounts, and I loved taking orders. That was like, I thrive on that. I didn't like the travel piece. It was sort of like a necessary evil, and I always kind of wanted to outgrow the fact that I would have to travel, which I was able to do. But I mean, that's to me, that's always fun work, right? The pitching and selling.
I'm going to push back a little bit and say, I agree that travel is necessary, but I think you can do a lot of this shit without traveling. I think you can tell. It's like travel's got to be part of the mix, no doubt. But it's, you can lean into direct mail, like gift. I mean, you can literally send people this stuff,
The only caveat I would say to that, Brian, is that this retailer, this animal we're talking about, is a really pretentious character, right? Mm-hmm. And they like that personal attention, that you are going to walk into their store and you're going to be present in their store and you're going to compliment their store and like, oh my gosh, I love how you've designed this shelf. Like, this is so beautiful. Like, did you do this yourself? Like, this is the work of a professional. So where did you get your expertise, right? Where did you learn? So this particular buyer, I think, it may need a little bit more of that personal attention than a buyer of something of a more mass-produced product. Could be.
PR has got to be a part of it too, right?
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about, I grew up with Bob McClure, who does McClure's pickles, and they sell like a $14 bottle of pickles, versus like Vlasic at $3. And their big break, they did farmers markets, and then their big break was a New Yorker article, like a 14-page, and they paid nothing to get that PR, but I know you can pursue it a little bit. Mike, I'd be curious, what's an appropriate level of investment in PR for a company this size?
I've always been an advocate of making sure that the story is PRable, and then the PR will probably happen. So you got to think through, what is the pitch, what is the presentation, and then you hire the company to format it and put it together for you. But what was McClure's story, I guess, would be a question I would ask. And then you got to find the right people to engage the story. So I think that's a really interesting question. What is that story? What if the New Yorker was going to write an article about you, what would that article be?
I actually think it'd be about our cocktail fruit. And so we started with cocktail cherries, and they became our bestseller over the pandemic. And because of that, it led us to kind of reevaluate, okay, there's clearly a demand here for this type of product. Why are cherries the default cocktail fruit? There's other really good fruit out there. I don't really get why it's only cherries, which led us to expand our cocktail fruit line to include cocktail blueberries and cocktail strawberries.
Nice. And
also spicy cocktail cherries. But as far as I know, I don't know of any other company that's doing cocktail blueberries or strawberries anywhere. So
I'm going to counterpoint. I think the story is Grand Rapids. People, I went to a wedding in Grand Rapids. I couldn't get people to stop talking about Grand Rapids to me who lived there. The pride of Grand Rapids is absurdly off the charts. And that McClure's article back in the day, that was all about the New York Detroit connection. They had one of the brothers was in New York and one of the brothers was in Detroit. And I think that Detroit was just a hot thing to talk about at that time. And building companies in Detroit, work hard, hustle Detroit, all that shit. That was the focus of that article. I don't know what it is about Grand Rapids right now, but everybody freaking loves Grand Rapids.
Is there a signature drink that you can attach to? I mean, does Grand Rapids have a signature drink that you the people in Wisconsin love I think it's the old fashioned. Everybody in Wisconsin's all over, but maybe there isn't a drink in Grand Rapids, but maybe you could invent one that has, your product in it. And then that's a story that you produce. And then you just have to create that story, but then you have to, I guess, go to the bar at the JW downtown or one, these real famous and get them to start making this drink.
Hype the cheese company. You and the cheese company, you're co-located, Grand Rapids. Hype their business, you know what I mean? And then you just get pulled right in along.
Well, I'll tell you what, the cheese board connection to me is huge. I mean, if you could create a cocktail and a cheese board together and then almost launch that into real high-end bars, that's a really interesting product mix to me. Because I know I love going to a bar and I'm done with I can't order fried foods anymore, right? But a nice meat and cheese board, game on, I want to hit that thing, but maybe that's I like that connection, and then that becomes a story, and then that story is where you're going from a PRable standpoint.
And I like killing I'm always looking for ways to kill 10 birds with one stone. So it's you lean into the story and maybe it PR pops. Maybe it's just a case study to sell other companies. Maybe this cheese shop, they're in part of a buyer's group or a cheesemonger group, that they can kind of intro you into. It's there's 8 or 10 different good things that could pop from that initiative. And I'm always looking for what's the most valuable thing I can do when I wake up tomorrow. And this starts to feel 10 birds with one stone.
Yeah, I got so a dear friend of mine, we helped him with a movie And I didn't really understand where he was going with it, but he ended up creating a cocktail, right, with Tito's vodka in it. And then he was doing this promotion in Texas. I'm pretty sure Tito's is based in Texas. And then he ended up getting the Tito's brand sort of behind this cocktail in an event, right? And it just led, one little thing led to another, and that ended up kind of being this cool story around the signature cocktail. And then we're going to be premiering the movie here in Ann Arbor in the fall, and we're going to do a signature event with Tito's and coffee in it, right? And then it's going to become a different signature event a cocktail from Michigan. Anyway, the cocktail fruit connection cheese board drinks, that's becoming in my brain an interesting story that's very
Are you sure you're not just jealous about my beer?
Yeah, well, that could be.
You're very cocktail focused at the moment.
Oh boy, I guess I am.
And that sounds great to me too. We should meet up after this.
Important. Just going to throw that in there.
Well, I don't know if I'm like, circa 1994 on this whole like guerrilla campaign of getting out there and calling on these retailers, but maybe it is all electronic these days, and that could just be a silly. But like I know, like I'm deep into working on like building one of my brands. Like I'm sending people books. Like and like it's a physical book that shows up in the mail, and I know I love that when somebody sends me a card now. It's like feels so special,
So we got like not a ton of time left. Should we talk about the secondary problem, which would be like warehousing and capital, or is there anything different, Zenobia, that you're more interested in talking about?
Like, I think our biggest pain points right now would definitely be the potential of warehousing and capital if we get a big order, or if we just continue to grow at the rate we're growing. The other one is ingredient sourcing. We're kind of hitting the upper limit of what our distributor can provide us, and we're like have this commitment to use Michigan fruit, and we're at this point where it's like, it's hard to keep finding Michigan fruit. And then as everyone right now, inflation, and like the price of the lids for our jars more than doubled over the past month. Some of our fruit has more than doubled. And so we've only raised some of our prices a little. So yeah, kind of those are our three issues right now, I would say.
Well, Mike, you got to get your increased pricing.
Thanks.
Conversation out of the way.
I thought you were going to cue me on this one. So, I buy this acai bowl every morning on DoorDash. And in the last 4 months, the price of that's gone from $13.99 to $17.99. And if you would have told me a year ago I'd be paying $17.99 for an acai bowl, I would have told you were crazy, right? But I'm doing it. I do it, right? To hear that you haven't been aggressively raising your prices right now scares me. So my take, and this is what we've done, and I've always told my community that there will be a day that a latte is $16. Now, I don't know if I'll be alive or at that point, but there will be a day that a latte is $16, right? And so inflation never goes backwards; it always goes in one direction. Always be increasing prices, always. Like I would really advise you to, on a quarterly basis, raise your prices and get your customer base used to it. That you're always raising prices. How much? That's a different conversation. But get into a habit of increasing prices on a very regular basis.
So how about are there things you're trying to do right now just to address like all the things you're talking about with ingredient sourcing and warehousing and capital, or is it just kind of like simmering in the background and it's like cross that bridge when we come to it?
We are trying to. we're kind of outgrowing our space right now. So we have a realtor, and we're always looking for,
Did we lose?
Cut out. Zenobia, are you there?
That's a pretty good freeze.
She's frozen in both places.
That's a pretty good freeze.
I mean, she looks like she looks intense, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I like it.
It just went off to.
Oh.
I hear Mike.
No, her mic.
Oh, I see.
That's too bad.
I mean, I'll
Hi,
say
Max.
something. What about broadcasting it like? Oh,
Yep.
looks like
Gotcha.
Great. Sorry. So anyway, I think I was saying, oh yeah, so we're looking for new space. And then we are kind of making contact directly, with fruit farms to try to contract some fruit, for the next growing season. So we're kind of working for it, but it's hard. It's one of those things too, where it's like, we know we're going to need it. We don't exactly know when. And
How attached are your customers to this Michigan thing? Do you think that's important?
That's one of the big questions. I think it is important to, several, like quite a few stores we have here in Michigan, but ultimately, I'm not sure if it's like.
Yeah, I find that pretty limiting. You know, anybody that's going to buy your product because people aren't buying your product because it's from Michigan, in my opinion. People are buying your product because they like your product, and so I would, you know, if that's going to be a limiting factor, I would encourage you to consider just kind of getting rid of that story. You know, we. For years, people wanted me to always have like in my door picture of Michigan, and we're Michigan based. And so it's like, I just found that always limiting, right? Like I am not interested in people coming to my business because it's from Michigan. I wanted people to come to my business because they love my product, right? And they love what we do. And yeah, that doesn't work if we're in Ohio, and Ohio's our fastest right now, you know? So anyway.
Plus you can kind of like get 80% from Michigan, and you can still be proud of Michigan and have that be part of your story without like sort of like putting a whole bunch of rules in place for yourself.
But some retailer in Milwaukee is going to like the fact that you buy, you know, fruit from Wisconsin.
Yes, and that is like a thing where we're trying to think about how to reword stuff and what the priorities are for us. You know, are they, you know, sustainable farms? Are they, you know, there are other things that people like that have probably a more broad appeal. So I agree with you.
Yeah, and the market doesn't hold you in the same box that you hold yourself. A lot of times, I think is the thing that Mike's saying. You know, it's like, don't apply something no one's even going to notice if you just change the language a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, no offense. Like, the good news and the bad news is nobody knows what the hell you're doing.
Really true. It's really true.
Well, we've got on our LinkedIn page, we've got a Finding Your Venture group. Love to have you join us there. And we do some different things there. We probably need to organize something here pretty soon, Brian. You know, and then I'm going to get you an invite out to a little support group I've got cooking in terms of entrepreneurship and business management and leadership. And so I'll get that out to you. Love to have you join that. There's no cost to entry. It's just trying to bring you value as an entrepreneur and support you and building your business. And what you got going here is cool. I love I've had your product. I know I've had your product. My wife's bought your cherries before. And so, yeah. And I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of money for cherries, but they're good. They really, you know, and that's the exact thinking I went through is, boy, that's a lot of money for cherries, but they're good. They're really, really good. So I think that's beautiful. And anything else, any questions you have for us right now that we didn't cover, or anything that I hope this has been helpful, and is there anything that we can cover for you in the last couple of minutes here before we take off?
Oh man, this definitely has been helpful. Thank you. I think it's been a lot of just like confirming things that have kind of just been like tossing around in my brain. And it's like, okay, it's good to hear like other people who know what they're talking about say that as well. So thank you.
If you need any more of that, you know, we're here, right? Like you can ping us on LinkedIn, like, hey, but anyway, go ahead. Anything else we can cover for you?
Oh gosh. I mean, well, we don't have very much time. Another problem I'm working on right now is, our product line is huge and I need to pare it down, and I don't know how to do that.
Oh my gosh. So and I attribute this 100% to my business partner. But he was always adamant that we don't go over, I think it was 20 syrups. And, you know, it was really hard to do, but if you add a syrup, you have to eliminate one. And that I would, oh my gosh, I would make that a rule in your world. I can't tell you how helpful that's been, because it makes you assess what's not working, right? And that's cool. Like, you want to get rid of the stuff that's not working. You want to, and so I'd rather see you have 4 or 5. That's too few, but you know, have 12 to 15 really powerful products. I mean, I can't. You're probably spending a lot of time managing some SKUs that are just, you know, that are unnecessary. Yeah.
I know it's hard because all of those that are like that, like the people that do like them,
yeah, right,
their number one favorite, of course. And so, you know, I know it has to be done, but it's like so hard because I'm like, oh, this one jam doesn't sell that well, but the people who buy it are like hardcore. And will be like really disappointed.
Well, this is how I used to approach that. So when somebody would come in the store and we'd eliminated something, I would obviously offer them a replacement, which is sort of, you know, fundamental. But then I would offer them the replacement for free, right? I would say, hey, you know, here, let me make you this drink. I think you're going to like it. It's going to be similar to whatever else you were drinking. And if you don't like it, no worries. I'm not going to charge you for it. I just like to, you know, and that's a really nice and easy way to have that conversation with them. And they see it as you're giving them a gift, you know, like you're giving them this product for free. And so that's how I always transition people is here, let me just make it for you for free. And then the other thing I would always tell people is, hey, I'm going to make a suggestion here. If you don't like it, I'll make you something else for free. Right. So you pay for the first one, but if you don't like it, I'll make you something else for free. And that was always the way I transitioned those conversations. And 99 out of 100 times, the person tries the new product and is like, yeah, that's great. That's good. You know, they do. They naturally want to like your products. Mm-hmm. And so they do.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. This has been such a great conversation, guys. Zenobia, is there anything else that you want to ask while we have the guys here? I know Mike's going to give you those resources after we leave here today, but feel free to ask away. Max, if you have anything from the heavens that you want to add. If not, I'm going to get this room closed here and thank everybody for being here. So we got just a second.
I'm just glad Max made his bed today. That's
Oh, that's so funny. I love it.
Zenobia, Max will reach out and get you the information around our support group. It's called G3, and then you join the LinkedIn group. Love to have you in there. Love to see you attending some of the things we're going to be doing down the road.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much it's been really helpful. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no, thank you for being here. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Max, for navigating StreamYard. I know we're getting it under wraps here. So thank you guys all for being here. And Zenobia, thank you for sharing all your past experience and everything that you have. And good luck to you with everything. And I hope you join G3. And I hope that you pop in here and join us on Thursdays. And I can't wait to try your product. So thank you guys again. And we will see you guys next Thursday at 1 p.m.
Keep it up. Good job.
Take care.